Hi there, it's Nikki Williams from Happy Hormones for Life. And today's video, I'm going to talk about a very common symptom that happens particularly during perimenopause and beyond for women, and that's anxiety. We've had a lot of mental health issues that are coming up in the news and the media, and it's getting a lot of focus, and it's usually around depression, but anxiety is slightly different, and it can really be quite debilitating for a lot of women. Everyone feels anxious at times. It's part of our stress response. It enables you to deal with anything that the brain perceives as dangerous so that we can stay alive. It's our survival mechanism. But many women find they become more anxious during perimenopause. That's the years after 40, running up to menopause, even if they've never had anxiety in the past. They feel constantly worried, fearful, panicky, on a daily basis, even with really small things. And it can have a devastating effect on your home life and your work life, and particularly your relationships. So physical symptoms can come along with that as well. Feelings of nausea, diarrhea, sweating, palpitations, physical panic attacks, shortness of breath, things like that. And anxiety levels are definitely on the increase. We're hearing a lot more about them, but they do seem to be on the increase as well with women, and particularly young people, particularly at risk. So what's behind these anxiety feelings, especially during perimenopause? Well, the first hormone responsible potentially is cortisol. Increased stress levels stimulate cortisol release on a constant basis. It's being constantly pumped out of our adrenals. And too much or too little cortisol can really interfere with our brain neurotransmitters and increase anxiety and feelings of low mood and mood swings. So for cortisol, it's really, really important to schedule in daily stress management practices. Now, I go on about this all the time because we women are pretty bad at doing this, keeping it up. But the more we can focus and prioritize this, the better our brain's going to work, and the less disruption it's going to have. And the calmer and more balanced we're going to feel. Meditation, mindfulness, deep breathing, yoga, just sitting and reading a book for 10 minutes. How often do we do that? Getting a massage, all of those things, whatever floats your boat, just schedule something in every day, even if it's just 5 minutes to start with. Just get yourself into the habit of doing that little bit of self-care for yourself. Secondly, we've got sex hormone changes going on. We've got estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone decline and fluctuations, and each of them have a big role to play in how your brain works, and therefore how you feel. I mean, fluctuations after 40 can increase anxiety, depression, and general brain function, focus, concentration, memory, all of that stuff. So the tip here is to look at your diet and make sure you've got lots of plant estrogens, because these help to regulate your estrogen levels. So things like flax seeds, that's the biggest source of phytoestrogens that you can get. So I usually recommend 1 to 2 tablespoons of milled flax seeds a day. You can pop it in a smoothie or put it on your yogurt or in your food, salads. I mean, they're pretty tasteless actually, so you can put them in everything. Lentils are another source. Soy, I prefer fermented soy, like miso paste is a fantastic source of fermented soy, but general soy in moderation is okay too. And to get your hormones tested if you're considering HRT or anything like that, or if you just want to know what's going on. Thirdly, we've got insulin going on. So, if you're eating a lot of high refined carbs and processed foods, these can push up insulin, which can cause inflammation in the brain, altering your neurotransmitters and your mood. So for that, you need to be eating a low GL diet, low glycemic load. So plenty of protein, healthy fats, and complex carbs, the ones that don't release their sugars too quickly. No snacking if you can possibly avoid it. Obviously, snack if you feel hungry or dizzy or faint. Don't want anyone falling over. But the less you snack, the less insulin you're producing, the less inflammation overall. That's the general rule. Not for everybody, but that's the general rule. Alcohol as well is going to push up your blood sugar. Sorry. So just limit that if you can. And then, you're looking at really keeping your blood sugars nice and stable. So that reduces the amount of inflammation going on, which can then reduce the inflammation in the brain, which is causing the anxiety. Fourth factor is thyroid. So low thyroid hormones, they mean a lower supply of energy to the brain, and this can disrupt your normal brain function and cause anxiety. So really important if you've got any other thyroid symptoms like fatigue, weight gain, hair loss, there's a ton of them on my other blog if you want to go and look at that. Get your thyroid hormones properly tested. Hard to do on the NHS, but do ask, because sometimes they do respond if your doctor's quite open-minded about these things. But you really want, you know, TSH is what they normally do, T4, they sometimes do it, T3 is the thyroid hormone you really want tested, and really get your antibodies tested as well, see if you've got an immune response to that. Nutrients to support thyroid you can include in your diet: iron, vitamin A, vitamin D, zinc, selenium, and iodine. So just look up all of those nutrients, see what foods, because I've got time to go into that today. Now, the next one you need to be factoring in is gut health. Now, we know there's a direct link between your gut and your brain. They're calling the gut the second brain now. So we know that it goes through the vagus nerve. The gut is constantly sending messages to the brain. If your gut isn't happy, you may have digestive issues, you may not, then it's going to contribute to things going on in your brain as well. It's going to make your brain unhappy too. So low mood, anxiety, all the rest of it. So just bear that in mind, supporting your gut. Next is nutrients. So important to get the right nutrients that your brain needs. So your brain needs magnesium. It's nature's tranquilizer. So always go for magnesium before anything else, before any drug-related stuff. So try magnesium first, because it often works. Vitamin D you can only get from the sun, and of course we're in the middle of January. We haven't seen the sun for months in the UK anyway, and we're all going to be deficient if we're not supplementing. So make sure you're supplementing at least 2,000 IU a day of D3 and get your levels checked. B12, see my other video and blog on B12. Just go search for it on the Facebook group. You know, I've got a personal connection to B12 because my grandmother had a deficiency that wasn't detected for years and years and years, and she was in and out of mental health institutions. And all it was a B12 deficiency, which is so simple to fix. So do get your B12 fixed or checked if you've had anxiety or you're worried about it. Other symptoms, you know, for B12 are, you know, exhaustion, sort of, you can get sort of numb, tingling, bad circulation, that kind of stuff. B6 is really important as well to help make neurotransmitters like serotonin, which is obviously going to make you feel good. Folate, which is B9, helps B12 work, helps iron work, and actually, you know, formulates your DNA, so it's pretty important. Iron, so get your ferritin levels checked, because that's the best way to check iron. Obviously carries oxygen to the brain, so that's really important. So if you're iron deficient, you can get all sorts of disruption in the brain. Omega-3 fats, your brain is made up of 60% fat. You need those omega-3s in to replenish those cells. Zinc, also crucial for brain health, and a lot of us are zinc deficient these days. So just check out those nutrients. You know, if you can get them tested, that's great, but otherwise you need to be really looking at foods that contain those. If you can't get them tested, we test routinely, but if you can't, if your doctor doesn't want to do that for you, then, you know, supplementing with those nutrients is usually very safe, but do check with your doctor if you're on any medication. And look for methylated B vitamins. They are the form of vitamin the B vitamins that your body actually can use, not the inactive forms, which are in most of the cheaper supplements. And lastly, emotional issues. So anxiety might not be anything to do with your physical body or your nutrients or your hormones. It can actually come from emotional issues that affect your self-esteem and your confidence. No food or supplements are going to help with this, so you really need to get help elsewhere. I've heard amazing things about the Thrive program, if you've heard of that. It's an evidence-based training program that teaches people the skills and resources to overcome mental health issues and learn to thrive. I'll put the link in underneath if you wanted to have a look at that, and I'll be also doing a blog on this on my website, so we'll have the link in there as well. They've got consultants all the way around the country, but a friend of mine whose son who's suffered panic attacks and anxiety for years and years and years, went through every single doctor and health route she could possibly imagine, and he's responded really well to this. She says he's a different person, so I think it's worth mentioning. If you think the source of your anxiety is more physical than emotional, then and you want help finding out what the root cause is, do book in a free discovery call with me or one of my team so we can see how best to help you. Otherwise, have a great day. Take care.